Good people, I come to you today with a topic that's not going to be easy to discuss, but it's been past time to accept it. It's never easy to deal with the loss of anything, and when it's something that you grew up with and have grown a deep rooted love for, it's truly painful when you see it move on to a galaxy so far away that at this point we'll need the Webb Space Telescope to see it. With that in mind, it's with a heavy heart that I must bring this news. Star Wars is dead, well, at least for us longtime fans of the legendary franchise. I know that many of us fans have been waiting, hoping, pleading, and even at times praying that Disney will reverse course on Star Wars and start to focus on things that made the franchise great prior to Disney's acquisition back in October 2012, which was outstanding storytelling that made it rewatchable and also connected us to the events that were happening within the story and character building, no matter what sex the characters was inside the movie or TV show. I'm here to say that after Disney bought Star Wars, that this was never the plan. The plan was to always move on and reshape the Star Wars universe using the Infinity Stones of Wokeness into what we see today. They only wanted the name in hopes that as they told a completely new story deprived of almost all the things that made Star Wars great, that for us longtime Star Wars fans, we would either simply ignore or excuse it because the name on the product was Star Wars. And early on, it worked. But no longer at this point. Today, ladies and gents, consider this a bit of a eulogy for our beloved Star Wars. Shortly after Disney bought Lucasfilms, they hired Kathleen Kennedy to be the sole president of Lucasfilms, and due to her prior work with producers like Steven Spielberg, with some work on projects that she was a part of in the past, there were some people out there, I remember critics, that thought that, well, let's give it a shot. I mean, after all, Disney, for that matter, had been killing it with the Marvel brand and the MCU at that time. Not what it is now, but at that time. So maybe they will keep the same thing going with Star Wars. Then Episode 7 came out, and we got to see behind the curtain a bit of what the agenda and direction they were taking the franchise in, which was poorly written and lackluster development of the storyline because the agenda is more important. Sprinkle in a strong female character lead, and then when you combine that with a lack of knowledge and understanding about the Star Wars universe and how things inside of it actually fundamentally worked. As Yoda would say, gone. The Star Wars that we know is replaced and corrupted by darkness. It has become. My Yoda accent needs work, but y'all get the point. If we look at pretty much every Star Wars movie or show that had any use of the Force in it since Disney took over, the Force became more of a magic trick and something that if you focused hard enough and even had mental fortitude, you too could use the Force. If we think back, ladies and gents, if we think back for a moment, when A New Hope came out back in 1977, and we got introduced to the concept of the Force, we saw the literal chosen one's son and Luke Skywalker being taught by a Jedi Master in Obi-Wan, or Ben Kenobi as it was known as. Luke was struggling to even use it doing a simple training exercise. This was how difficult in our version of Star Wars the Force was to use. Heck, Even at the end of the movie, when Luke used the Force to blow up the Death Star, he did it, but he did it again with the help of his master Obi-Wan, reminding him to use the Force. In Disney Star Wars, though, in this new bizarro, if you will, Star Wars that Disney's creating, in spite the fact that a person has little to no training in the ways of the Force from anyone, let alone a Jedi Master, they can use it by having at least one of those Infinity Stones of Wokeness, and they'll simply be able to overpower anything. The plot of the stories have left many of us doing what I like to call the Rosario Dawson stance from Ahsoka. Y'all know the one, right? The one where she's standing there, arms crossed, staring into the distance, trying to figure out what the heck is the point of the story. In our Star Wars, every movie we got or novel that we got, the plot always made sense. And in some respects, I could argue that it was known early on, or at least by the end of it, you knew what it was about and where the next one would potentially take you. In these latest Star Wars projects, other than the agenda, it leaves you asking more questions, which normally isn't a bad thing, except for when the question is, what the heck did I just watch? And what the heck is this about? The latest Star Wars show and The Acolyte is the living, breathing embodiment of this right now in more ways than one. And the show is only 2 episodes in, mind you. For Kathleen and her crew of diversity, they could care less to make Star Wars fit the biggest demographic for the product, which is men, and because of that, it's just time that we as fans move on. What Disney is putting out isn't Star Wars, and I think we have to accept that. It's at best a caricature of it. And to tell you the truth, good people, it's just a completely new story. We have this thing called the multiverse and alt timelines and things of that nature, and maybe we could pawn it off with that. But I don't believe we should even do that. They say that there are 5 stages of grief that everyone has to go through in order to move past a painful situation. As Star Wars fans, we went through denial watching the sequel trilogy. We got angry seeing the Star Wars projects that they were putting out. We bargained and pleaded for Disney to bring in people who knew what Star Wars was about. Heck, even some of the people we see right here online on YouTube to help out, but they didn't do that. And then we got depressed seeing Disney lose money and us thinking that maybe this would cause them to turn back and right the ship, only to see them double down with what they're doing and going out of their way in a lot of respects to criticize us fans for the unhappiness with the product that we feel. And now we're at that 5th stage. It's time for acceptance. The Star Wars that we knew and loved and grew up with is dead. And unfortunately, it's never coming back. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And until the next video, I hope you all have a good one. And may the Force be with you.